The video opens to the wobble of a handheld phone, a kitchen I know better than my own palms. Sun-faded curtains, mismatched plates stacked by the sink, the pine table I bought last year with my holiday bonus, because it'll make Mom so happy, Leena. The camera steadies. 4 chairs, 3 bodies, my family. Mom's voice lands first, sharp enough to slice fruit. She owes us, after everything we've done for her. Dad's laugh answers from somewhere off-screen. It's a cough disguised as a chuckle. She's a burden, always has been, worthless. My sister leans in, her elbow grazing the table. She should be grateful. Without us, she'd still be sleeping in that rat hole. I watch without blinking. Then I watch again. The third time I pause on Mom's face, her mouth tightened into that judgmental line I know from childhood report cards and late-night lectures. Don't tell her about this, she'd get emotional. They laugh. The sound sits like a split lip on my screen. My thumb hovers over the replay button, then slides to close. In the quiet that follows, the apartment sounds return. A truck downshifting on the street below, my neighbor's television bleeding through the wall, the fridge fan hiccuping before it steadies. I stare at the black mirror of my phone and see myself ghosted there, eyes dry, back straight. I text my uncle. Thanks for showing me. 3 dots pulse, then vanish. Nothing else comes. He doesn't need to reply. I set the phone face down on my coffee table. The room smells like coffee grounds and laundry detergent, ordinary, loyal smells. I stand, cross to the window, and look at the washed-out city. Somewhere across town sits a house I've been keeping alive for 3 years. I can see it in my mind like a photograph. The paint touch-ups I paid for, the leaning fence I replaced, the roof I fought the insurance company over. I can imagine my pine table glowing under the overhead light, supporting takeout boxes and elbows and the weight of casual cruelty. I wait for the shaking to start. It doesn't. Something else happens. Quieter, colder, an internal door clicking shut. I pick up my phone and call Mom. She answers as if she hasn't just finished dusting my bones. Leena, how are you, sweetheart? I'm fine. How's your arthritis? A little stiff. Your father keeps moving my heat pads. He never puts anything back. There's a rustle, the sound of her settling into a chair. By the way, the next mortgage is due soon. I know. Don't worry. I can hear the exhale through the line, long and satisfied, like a swimmer surfacing. You're a good girl. I try. We hang up. I let the quiet sit a moment longer. Then I move. Laptop. Banking portal. The glow turns the room into a late-night office. I navigate to automatic payments and scroll to the one labeled in my own shorthand. Mortgage, family. I have labeled every transfer like this, for taxes, repairs, insurance. Family, like a prayer stitched into a coat. I click cancel. A box pops up. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? I don't look for metaphors. I click yes. Next, the deed. The document lives in a folder titled Home, the irony of which I only now appreciate. When I helped them refinance, the lender asked for stability and collateral and the clean credit I had cultivated like a garden. My name went on the dotted line, co-owner. At the time, it felt like a seat at the family table. Tonight, it feels like a key. I print it. The printer coughs and rattles and spits the page like a small animal defending itself. I smooth the sheet on my counter, lay my hand over my name, and feel nothing. I call the bank. The hold music is a loop so relentlessly cheerful it sounds unwell. Finally, a human voice, politely exhausted. Thank you for calling Westview Mortgage Services. This is Danielle. How may I assist you? If payments were to stop on account number ending in 1421, what would happen? A pause as her fingers begin their work. Well, ma'am, we send a notice after the first missed payment. By 90 days delinquent, we begin foreclosure proceedings unless arrangements are made. 90 days. I repeat. The number tastes precise. Thank you. Would you like to set up a financial hardship plan? No, I say, and my voice is soft. I just wanted to understand the timeline. I hang up and turn to my second phone, the one I jokingly call my job lifeline, the one I never give to family. From it, I dial a contact saved under H. Hale, he answers. His voice is low and gray. I need a partition action. I'm co-owner on a property with my parents. I want to sell my share. A beat. On his end, I hear papers shifting, a keyboard wintering. Leena, that's not going to be a family dinner, is it? There are no dinners left, I say. File it. All right, he replies. Come by tomorrow, we'll sign what we need to sign. The court calendar's slow, but the threat of the filing often does a lot of the work. I'm counting on it. I hang up. I leave the laptop open on the counter. I turn off the big light and leave the small lamp on, the one shaped like a ceramic bird my sister once said was quaint in a pathetic way. The bird glows against the dark room. I sit in its dim company and listen to the apartment breathe. Sleep comes and goes like a tide. I watch the ceiling, the window stripe brightening with dawn. When the sun finally arrives, it touches the stack of bills on my table. None of them say family. At work, the world continues its charade. Emails accumulate like silt, meetings circle and repeat. My coworker Sophia recounts a date in which the man called cilantro leafy soap and ordered milk with his steak. I laugh at all the right places. I eat half a granola bar and tuck the rest back for later. Twice, I almost forget what's in motion. Then my phone buzzes with a spam call about my car's warranty, and I remember that time is a conveyor belt, and my job is to stand still and watch everyone else move. Days peel off the calendar. I keep calling Mom. I keep asking about her hands. I keep listening to her complain about Dad's stubbornness and my sister's attitude. My voice is gentle in her ear. When she asks on day 20, everything's set for the first? I say, mm-hmm. Day 90 arrives without thunder. No storms, no sirens. Just a pale morning that looks like any other. I drink my coffee at the counter, forearms on cool laminate, watching steam unfurl and vanish. The city outside moves the way it always does. Delivery trucks yawning curbside, a cyclist cutting a neat diagonal through a red light, a child tugging a parent toward a dog. The ordinary wraps itself around the extraordinary so tightly you can barely see the seam. At 9:12 a.m., the bank's first foreclosure notice posts to the online portal. Delinquency Day 90, Notice of Intent to Accelerate. The words are clinical, unsentimental. I copy the PDF to my black folder and close the laptop like I'm extinguishing a candle. Work moves in loops, status email, calendar reminder, Sophia waving a yogurt tube like a white flag. You're ghosting happy hour, she says, half playful. I owe myself some quiet, I say. In the early afternoon, Mr. Hale calls. His voice always sounds like a room with the blinds half closed. Service went through, he says. Your parents have been officially notified of the partition suit. We'll get a response or we won't. Either way, the clock's now the loudest person in the room. Good, I say. Let it talk. He clears his throat. They may call, they may visit. People hate paperwork that rearranges the furniture of their lives. They've been rearranging mine for years, I say, not unkind. I leave work on time. The sky is a flat sheet of linen. My feet take me past a florist where buckets of gladiolas stand looking like solemn witnesses, and a barber sweeping hair into perfect dark crescents. I think of the kitchen in their house, the pine table under that harsh overhead light, the stack of mail leaning toward collapse, the air that smells like old onions and cleaner. They call at 6:03 p.m. Mom first. It rings out. She calls again. I let it. The third time I answer. I don't say hello. There's a man, a process. What is it? Server? He brought papers. He said you. Leena, what is this? Legal notice. A partition action. I told you. You can't do this. You did. I'm your mother. That's a statement of biology, not ethics. A small silence opens. I can hear the subtle echo of the kitchen, the cheap wall clock ticking like a metronome no one asked for. We didn't mean it, she says, smaller. We were together, at my table, in my house, saying exactly what you meant because you believed no one who mattered would hear. Don't be dramatic. I'm being precise. A car passes beneath my window. Its base is a moving bruise. Mom inhales to begin a new campaign, and I hang up before it deploys. I set the phone down and hear my heartbeat, slow and even, like footsteps in a long hallway. 2 days pass. The manila stack in their living room grows. My uncle texts a single line. They know. I send back a single word. Good. On day 93, I leave work early and take a bus that wheezes toward their neighborhood. The sky has the blank look of a turned-off television. I press the stop cord and step down in front of a pickle green house I once thought I'd die in. The grass is an untidy thought. Their mailbox lists on its post like it wants to lie down. Inside, the air is thick with an undefinable domestic smell. Fried oil, soft cheese, anger. They're on the couch like a triptych. Dad with his arms crossed high, defensive. Mom with her knees together and hands worrying a tissue. Sarah perched at the edge, eyes braced. Mail spills across the coffee table like the aftermath of a paper storm. Red ink warnings, bolded headings, an envelope with the court seal torn open and left like a wound. Mom stands first. Leena, why would you stop paying? We could lose everything. The room is lit by the ceiling fixture that always makes people look a little crueler. My table is in the next room, visible through the archway. A faithful witness. I take in the framed prints I chose, the throw pillows I bought on a sale I researched, the rug I carried myself up these steps. I feel nothing. Not rage, not sorrow, just an exquisite absence. Because I said what you meant. You believed no one who mattered would hear. Don't be dramatic. Dad's face goes blotchy with heat. He always pretended at silence, but his anger is loud in its posture. After all we did for you. I saw the video, I say, quiet like a needle. Something in the air changes, like a door closing in a church. Nobody moves. The TV remote sits half under a magazine, its buttons like small teeth. Dad lurches forward, then sits back, something crumbling behind his eyes. He has always wielded impatience like a weapon, a blade he thought was too dull to count as dangerous. You think you're better than us because you have what? A job, papers, phone calls with banks? No, I say. I know exactly where I came from. I just stopped paying to stay there. They blink. The clock ticks like it's marking a body. Sarah tries for the angle that always worked when we were children. We need you. You know Dad's health. I know his words, I say. Mom's mouth moves without sound for a moment. When the voice returns, it's soft, almost intimate. The same one she used when I was 9 and feverish. Sweetheart, she says. We didn't mean it. Meanings reveal themselves when no one is listening. You're being vindictive. I'm being finished. We stand in a room that I filled with things and they filled with contempt. The dissonance hums. I glance at the archway. The pine table is nicked at the edges from heavy plates and careless elbows. When I bought it, the clerk asked if I wanted the protection plan. I said no. I believed protection was the point of the table itself. I'll give you a week. Then I won't give you anything. Leena, Mom says. It is not a word, but a rope being thrown. I leave it coiled on the floor. On the porch, the evening is a thin blue ribbon. A neighbor in a robe waters her front steps, sending a dirty trickle down the walk. The air tastes like hose metal and leaf rot. I stand with my hand on the rail and breathe through a body that feels like a new instrument. Familiar shape, revised sound. The next days are a parade of attempts. Calls that ring and ring, texts that arrive in little bursts of desperation and apology. We were joking, you know how your father is. It was a hard day. We've sacrificed so much. Fine, we're sorry. Guilt goes through outfits, pleading, indignant, righteous, exhausted. I let them all pass in front of me like a wardrobe I won't be wearing. At work, Sophia brings me a coffee and a donut and a paper bag that says, "You deserve this," in a font that has never met reality. "You're lighter," she says, noticing something I haven't spoken out loud. "I'm putting down heavy things," I say. At night, I inventory tangible items. Not furniture, not plates or rugs or the framed print of a seaside village that Mom said looked like a place she'd hate. I inventory the unspokens. The way Dad used to turn the TV up when I talked, as if the world was always more interesting than his daughter. The way Mom used to sigh when I said I couldn't come home for a weekend because my second job needed me, as if my absence were a personal cruelty. The way Sarah called my apartment a rat hole, but took my coats and my makeup and once the cash I tucked in a vase for emergencies. I count them and put them in a mental box and slide the box onto a high shelf. I don't open it again. On day 97, a certified letter arrives at my apartment, a copy of a bank notice sent to all parties of record. Opportunity to cure before acceleration. The phrase has an eerie compassion. I circle opportunity with a pen and then draw a line through it. Some opportunities are just invitations to return to a burning room. On day 100, I meet Hale in a courthouse hallway that smells faintly of old paper and lemon cleaner. We sit on a wooden bench that has molded itself around generations of worry. He reviews the case file, taps his pen, and looks at me over the half-moons of his glasses. He could still try to negotiate, he says, offer to refinance, to buy out your share, to petition for a private sale. They could, I say. Do you want them to? I think of the video, Mom's sharp voice, Dad's laugh that is a cough, Sarah's easy cruelty. I think of my labeled payments and the night I clicked cancel and how the room didn't spin and no lightning struck, how only a small, merciful quiet arrived and sat beside me like a companion. I think of sleeping the sleep of someone who has not abandoned themselves. No, I say. He nods. Not judge, not priest. Just a man whose job is to bring paper to bear on people who thought they were immune to it. We proceed, he says. We leave the courthouse into a day that can't decide if it wants to be gray or bright. On the steps, a teenager rides a skateboard down the railing and falls, laughing as his friends howl. They lift him easily, everyone young and unbroken enough to believe in uncomplicated recoveries. That evening, my uncle texts. They're asking around who sent the video. A beat later, they're angrier at the mirror than at the face. I write, let them be. He replies with nothing, which is also an answer. On day 105, a final notice with bolder type arrives at their door. Mom sends a photo of it, the edges of her fingers visible, the nail bitten to the quick. "Please," she writes beneath the image. "Please, Leena. We're your family." I look at the photo. The light in their kitchen is too bright. The paper looks like it's shouting. Through the photo, I see the pine table's grain, the one I chose because it reminded me of the picnic tables at the park where Dad never took us because there was always a game on. I think of the word family and how I used it like a compass even as it spun. I type, "You taught me what the word means. I'm listening." I don't send it. I delete the draft and put the phone face down. I make dinner for myself, an omelet with chives and goat's cheese, toast with too much butter because I am a grown woman and I can waste a little. I sit at my own table, the thrifted oak with scratches that map my life. I eat slowly. I taste every bite. The room is quiet because I have made it so. When dishes are done, I pull the black folder from the drawer and snap it open. I shuffle the papers, not to reread, but to feel their edges. Paper is such a small thing, weightless until it isn't. On top, I place a new printout of the bank's notice of acceleration impending. It sits there like a forecast. I slide everything back into the folder and for the first time in years go to bed without setting an alarm for anything but myself. Outside, the city curls into its night music, buses exhaling, late laughter, a dog's distant bark. Inside, my apartment holds itself the way a promise does, quietly, completely. I turn out the light and lie in the dark and think of nothing at all. The morning the notice of acceleration posts, the sky is a color with no name. It isn't gray exactly. It's the color of a held breath. I drink my coffee without sugar and read the language twice, because precision is a sedative. All sums immediately do. Failure to cure will result in foreclosure. Clinical prophecy. I print it and slide it into the black folder. Paper has learned to sit up and speak. I don't call anyone. I water the plant by the window and wipe the counter and fold a towel I should have folded yesterday. The apartment hums at its usual volume. Silence is an instrument. I'm fluent now. At work, the morning combs itself into meetings. I sit through a budget review where men apologize to spreadsheets. Sophia doodles spirals in the margin of her notepad and shows me a tiny smiling sun she's hidden in the curve. "You okay?" she mouths. I give her the smallest nod. Truth doesn't need volume to be true. By noon, my phone is a museum of alarm. Mom, 7 missed calls. Sarah, 11 messages. Call me. Call me. Pick up. Please. Why are you doing this? Dad doesn't text. His weapon has always been absence disguised as authority. I let them ping and pool. When the phone quiets, I step out for air. The city is practicing late summer. Garbage blooming in heat, the faint music of a radio from a plumber's van, someone selling mangoes from a crate and calling the word like a blessing. I buy one because sweetness is not treason. I eat it on the curb and let the juice swallow my attention. Not everything has to mean something. On day 107, a letter from the bank arrives with more teeth in its font. The freezes are the same. The edges have sharpened. I photograph it for the folder and delete the photo from my camera roll like you delete old lives, without ceremony. That evening, my uncle calls. He seldom calls. His voice has the gravel of a road unpaved. "They're telling people you've gone cold," he says. "That you've had influence. A friend whispering in your ear." A beat. "They can't say your name without saying mine." "I'm sorry," I say, and I mean it. Not for the action, for the predictable pettiness of the chorus. He exhales through his nose. Truth is loud to people who have spent their lives speaking in code. He lowers his voice. They're more afraid of the ruin being public than the ruin itself. Pride is expensive, I say. Cheapest luxury they ever bought? We say nothing for a moment, a comfortable kind. He shifts, maybe in his chair, maybe in his conviction. You sleep? I say, better. Good. The click is gentle, like a door eased shut so it won't wake anyone. The bank posts a sale date, trustees auction, 4 weeks. The notice is a rectangle of inevitability. Location, time, instructions for bidders to bring certified funds. I print 2 copies because the ritual comforts me. The edges slice my finger on the second, and a red bead blooms. I put it in my mouth and taste iron. You're alive, the body reports. Keep going. At their house, the foliage has made its own decisions. The mailbox leans farther, as if conspiring with gravity. A bright notice from the city is zip-tied to the porch rail. Mowing required. Small humiliations come free with the larger ones. I don't go in. I pass on the opposite sidewalk with my sunglasses on and my collar up. Through the window, I see the silhouette of my pine table. I count to 6. I keep walking. The next days, I become an archivist of their unraveling, not because I will need the record, because collecting the moments prevents me from being swallowed by any single one. Mom leaves voicemails and misuses the word betrayal until it loses shape. Sophia alternates between, "You're a monster," and "We were kidding," with the agility of someone who thinks tone is a tool for rearranging reality. Dad sends nothing, and then at midnight on day 113, a text. "Your mother hasn't slept. Your sister is sick with worry." I stare at the sentence and consider how skillfully it removes him from the world of verbs. At work, people begin planning a team picnic. There is a spreadsheet for napkins. I watch them assign who will bring which mustard and feel briefly like an anthropologist who has discovered a tribe that worships condiments. I put my name beside ice. Delivering cold feels apt. On day 115, I stand at the back of a small courtroom while Hale handles a status conference. The judge's hair is a tidy helmet. Her patience is foolproof. Opposing counsel, a man with the damp look of a peeled grape, argues that partition would cause my parents emotional harm. The judge steeples her fingers. The statute's purpose is not to guard against consequences. It is to apportion rights. Her voice is monotone. It still feels like a bell. After, in the hallway that smells like waiting and hand sanitizer, Hale raises an eyebrow. "They wanted pity," he says. I say, "They can keep it." On the way out, I pass a bulletin board with a flyer about mediation services, resolve family disputes. I imagine a room with stale coffee and a woman with a clipboard asking us to use "I feel" statements to narrate a crime scene. I keep walking. One evening, I open the video again. Not to reopen the wound. It no longer bleeds, but to listen to the precise moment a story stopped being a story and became a verdict. I watch their faces without sound. It is almost merciful to mute them. The camera wobbles in the uncle's hand, the light over the pine table hums. Their mouths move, and I supply nothing for them to say. The room on the screen and the room I sit in are separated by distance that cannot be measured in miles. I close the file. The screen goes to black and reflects me back. Woman, unstartled by herself. On day 131, a thin envelope arrives. Final accounting, foreclosure completed. The language is clean. The arithmetic is tidy. There is a small, unexpected line item, a refund of an insurance overpayment. I laugh. The house is still returning pieces of itself to me like a dog dropping the last of the sticks it gathered when it thought fetching was the way to earn love. I take a walk at dusk, the hour when the city looks like it forgives you for living in it. A child rides a scooter with triumph. A couple argues quietly about cumin. A window glows with the blue of a sitcom laughter track. I pass a shop window and see my reflection cut by a diagonal of neon. I stand and study it. Power without noise looks like this: a person standing still, owning the air around her because she has decided to. My phone buzzes. Mom, we're in the new place. It's not. The sentence stops where it should. Then, we never meant to hurt you. The apology arrives with the last truckload. I type, you taught me what hurt is. I taught myself what to do with it. I don't send it. Some lessons don't need grading. At home, I put the black folder away, not in the drawer where I can reach it without looking, on the top shelf of the closet where you keep winter things in summer. I close the door and let darkness do what it does best, quiet the shape of what it contains. The next morning, I wake before my alarm. The sky chooses a color and sticks to it. I make eggs, I butter toast with extravagance. I sit at my table and eat while the world begins its practices. When I'm done, I wash the plate. I leave no trace not because I am afraid of being found out, but because I finally live where I'm living. This is what control feels like, I think. Not the shout, the steady hand that puts the glass down without a spill. The story hasn't ended. It has simply stopped begging for anyone else's permission to be true. The first morning after the black folder goes to the top shelf, the sky is simple. Blue doing its best, sun not bragging. I brew tea instead of coffee and choose the mug with the tiny chip near the lip because imperfection has stopped feeling like a prognosis. The kettle sings. For a moment, I expect a phone to interrupt, someone else's emergency disguised as obligation. It doesn't. The quiet holds. At work, the world resumes being ordinary with enthusiasm. A client wants a deck with fewer words and more certainty. Sophia shows me a photo of a stray cat that adopted her stoop. He looks like a pillow with opinions, she says. I laugh, the sound unfamiliar in its ease. She tilts her head at me. You're lighter, she says, not like a question. I put something down I never should have picked up, I say. That weekend, I take a walk to nowhere specific. The streets look newly washed, not by rain, but by time doing what it's supposed to when you get out of its way. I pass the flea market and stop at a table of mismatched silverware. The vendor is the kind of old who wears two sweaters no matter the season. I sift through forks that remember other hands and settle on a single butter knife with a handle engraved in a pattern of climbing vines. When I pay, he squints at me as if he recognizes someone I remain to myself. Good choice, he says. It isn't sharp, but it's useful. On Monday, I enroll in a community workshop because an ad on the bulletin board says, "Make something with your hands," in a font that would usually irritate me. The room smells like cedar and ambition. The instructor, a woman with silver hair and forearms strong as arguments, asks what I want to build. A table. Before my mind can submit another answer, small, for two people, maybe one. She nods like I've said something clever. Tables are promises, she says. Let's make one you actually want to keep. Wood is slower than money. It requires showing up without shortcuts. I learned the patience of sandpaper, the logic of clamps, the exact pressure between too much and not enough. I choose a length of maple that, under dust, has a quiet warmth. In the soft whir of the shop, grief becomes a grain you can follow. Night after night, I plane and smooth and fit. The first time I fit the legs into the apron and the joints hold, a ridiculous pride blooms in my chest. I built a place to set something down. Outside those evenings, life resumes its negotiations with joy. I buy peaches so ripe they volunteer to be forgiven. I delete messages from numbers that used to own me. I sleep. When I wake, the first thought is mine. A week into the class, my uncle calls to say he's near my office. We meet on a bench that looks across at a fountain, trying not to be ridiculous. He hands me a paper bag that smells like cardamom. He says baklava from the place that used to be good and somehow still is. Then, quieter, your mother asked if I'd tell you she had a dream where she was cooking for you. She woke up crying. I hear my heart beat once, then again. I say, dreams are generous. His mouth tilts. So are you. I say, not in the way she recognizes. He watches a child break and remake a paper boat in the fountain's thin rain. He doesn't know how to say sorry without also asking for the past back. You're giving her the chance to learn a new way. I'm giving myself a chance not to teach it. He nods like a witness at a good sermon. Do you want me to pass anything along? I think of the ceramic bird lamp, of the pine tables sold to strangers, and of my mother's hands that open letters and knead dough and point to places in me that hurt. I tell her I hope her hands hurt less, and I can meet her for tea. In a public place. Once. He blinks once, approval without applause. I'll tell her. We choose a Tuesday afternoon, the hour when cafes are full of people who don't have to be anywhere else, and the lonely pretending to be the first kind. I arrive 10 minutes early and choose a table near the window. If I need the sky, I want it available. I set the butter knife in my bag beside my wallet without knowing why. I pay my own rent early, a small private ceremony to remind myself that money is a tool, not a leash. A week before the sale, Sarah shows up at my building. I see her on the security camera, ponytail too tight, sunglasses like armor, a jaw set to convince. I watch her press the buzzer and step back, tucking hair behind an ear in a nervous loop. My thumb hovers over the intercom. I let the image play out without soundtrack. After 4 tries, she kicks the door with the temper of the young and the entitled, then storms off. My chest doesn't tighten. That surprises me. I count to 8. I go back to my book. I dream that night that the house is back on its legs, but this time it turns toward me and bows like a tired animal before settling, finally, into the earth. In the dream, I touch its roof and say, "Good dog." I wake with a laugh in my throat I don't recognize at first as mine. Auction day is clear as glass. I take the bus, not because I need to be there, but because I crave the architect's view of my own design. The courthouse steps are occupied by a thin collection of men who wear practical shoes and carry envelopes like talismans. There is a woman in a linen dress with a clipboard, efficient enough to cut. A man from the bank reads addresses in a voice that makes nouns sound like weather. When our address comes, I don't look at Hale. He is a constant, a gray suit, a pen. Bidding starts low and rises in increments that feel like a gentle staircase. Strangers lift their hands, numbers are numbers. Mercy is not a line item. I picture Mom at the window of the house, which she isn't allowed to keep, standing behind the lace curtain she refuses to wash because she believes lace cleans itself. I picture Dad in his chair, pretending to be unmoved because he has confused stoicism with dignity his whole life. I picture Sarah composing a speech addressed to no one who can save her. The gavel equivalent here is a nod and a note in a letter. When it happens, it happens. The property passes into other hands like a secret changing owners. Hale looks at me. I nod. We walk down the steps, through the peculiarly cheerful conversations of people who like to buy things other people must sell. He asks if I want coffee. I say yes, because ritual still holds the world together, even when the plot has collapsed. We sit at a table with a wobble in one leg and drink quietly. There will be proceeds, he says. Not much, considering arrears and costs. Enough to be a clear start. Enough, I say. He doesn't ask if I regret it. That is why I hired him. 2 days later, a check arrives made out to me, a number that is both modest and monumental. I lay it on my table and look at it the way you look at a photograph of yourself from a time you were pretending. I deposit it. The bank app thanks me as if I've done them a favor. Mom texts that night. "We have to move by the 1st. Are you happy now?" Happiness is a word people use when they can't imagine peace. I don't answer. Uncle. They found a rental. Small. Your sister's furious about the carpet. I respond, Tell her rent's due on the 1st. He replies with a dot, a dash, then nothing. Morse code for understood. In the days that follow, my apartment lightens. Not physically. It's the same thrifted table, the same plant attempting optimism by the window, but the air is newly shaped. I sleep like paper settling in a drawer. I wake without other people's clocks in my head. The little things change. I linger in the shower. I buy the good peaches. I delete an email from Sarah without reading it, and the world does not end. I write out my own rent with an absurd flourish in the memo line. 4. Shelter in which I own nothing but myself. I delete the flourish. I keep the feeling. Mom arrives in a coat too warm for the weather and sits down like the chair might have opinions. Up close, she looks older, which is not surprising, and small, which is. She reaches for my hand and then doesn't. Leena, she says, and the name is not a rope this time. It's just my name. We order tea. The cups arrive hot enough to ask for care. For a while we talk about scaffolding, her neighbor who plays music too loud, my coworker who keeps miming his PowerPoints, the price of eggs, as if outrage is a religion we can agree on. When a tea cools, she reaches into her bag and places a photograph on the table between us. It's from a birthday party I don't remember wanting. Paper hats, supermarket cake, 8 candles, and a brother we didn't have because life was tired when it got to our street. I'm smiling like someone who still believes the world will read her labels and obey. I was cruel, she says, looking at the photo instead of at me. I said things that felt good in the mouth and didn't care what they did once they left. She inhales, as if pulling thread through a needle that keeps bending. I grew up in a house where love sounded like orders. I thought that was care. Her eyes find mine. It isn't. There are apologies that want something. This isn't that. It wants forgiveness, maybe, but not to reverse anything. Only to stop the clock that kept us both hostage. I sit with the kindness and the grief in the same chair. I can't undo it, she says. I don't expect you to fix me. I don't expect... She stops. I'm proud of you for choosing yourself when we taught you not to. My throat tightens, not with the old hand around it, but with air figuring out a new way through. I won't come back to the way things were, I say. I won't pay to be insulted. I won't answer to panic. But I can meet you for tea sometimes if you speak to me like someone you want to keep. Her mouth trembles once, a small wether. I can try. Trying is the minimum, I say, and I hear no cruelty in it, only a rule finally enforced. She nods, wipes at her eyes, makes the tiny embarrassed noise mothers make when they remember being someone else in public. Your sister misses you, she says carefully, as if carrying a hot plate. Your daughter misses who she could take from without asking, I say. If she wants to try again like a person, she knows my number. We drink the rest of our tea in a quiet that's not exactly comfortable and not exactly not. When the cups are empty, I slide the butter knife across the table. For you, I say. She frowns like I've handed her a riddle. A knife? It's not sharp. It's useful for spreading things evenly. She smiles despite herself. You are always dramatic. I'm learning to be precise. We part at the corner with a careful hug. Not a tangle, contact with edges. As she walks away, she turns twice. The second time, she lifts her hand in a shy wave. I lift mine back. It doesn't feel like surrender. It feels like a door propped open to let a room air out. At the workshop, my table comes together. I oil the maple, and it drinks the amber like a parched thing. The grain darkens into a quiet map of itself. When I carry it up the stairs to my apartment, careful, cautious, laughing at myself for laughing, I set it beneath the window where morning likes to sit. I run my palm along its smoothness and feel every hour baked into it. I place 2 plates and 2 glasses, then remove one of each. It's not a prayer. It's not a dare. It's just a practice in leaving space without emptiness. A few days later, Sarah texts me a paragraph that tries on 3 different tones and decides to keep none. It ends with, "I'm working extra shifts. It's hard." I type, "Work is hard. People help each other by not using each other." I don't send it. Instead, I respond, "If you want to meet for coffee, no money talk, no blame, just sisters. 1 hour." The dots appear, disappear, reappear. Not now. Maybe later. I believe her in the way you believe weather predictions. You plan, but you don't bet your life on it. My uncle sends me a photo of my mother's kitchen in the rental. A thrift store table, a plain lamp, my butter knife on a saucer reflecting a thin coin of light. She likes it, he texts. I stare at the image longer than it deserves, and then exactly as long. I answer, "Good." On a late afternoon that leans toward gold, I invite Sophia to see the table I made like a kid inviting a friend to see a drawing on her fridge. She runs her fingers along the edge and whistles. "You could eat an apology off this," she says. Then kinder, "You built something that will hold up." We eat peaches over it and let the juice fall onto plates we don't rush to clean. We talk about nothing important and everything that is. When she leaves, the apartment smells like fruit and companionship. I stand in the middle of the room and say out loud to no one, "Home." The word doesn't echo. It lands. That night, I open the old video one last time. I turn the sound on. This time, the voices are small, not because they've grown quieter, but because I'm sitting farther from them. I watch exactly to the part where my mother says, "Don't tell her about this, she'd get emotional." I pause. I don't cry. I don't harden. I don't forget. I close the file and empty the trash. The computer asks if I'm sure. I am. Before bed, I take the black folder down from the closet, not to reopen anything, but to see if it still weighs the same in my hands. It doesn't. Paper is heavy until you carry it long enough to remember it's just wood made thin. I slide out the last notice, the final accounting that turned a house into arithmetic, and tuck it behind the lease for this apartment, then behind the receipt for a month's worth of groceries, then behind the receipt for sandpaper and oil. By the time it's nestled among proofs of a life I pay for willingly, it's hard to find. I sleep with the window cracked. Somewhere a train sighs. Somewhere a couple argues their way back to tenderness. Somewhere my mother is learning the muscle memory of apology, and my sister is trying on the possibility of adulthood, and my father is figuring out how to sit with a silence that isn't about punishment, but air. These are their lessons to learn. Mine have been paid for. In the morning, the light on the maple is a soft herald. I make eggs, butter toast with the knife the vendor replaced in my bag for the one I gave away, identical, but mine. I sit at the table I built with my hands, and I eat what I made. The chair does what chairs do. The table carries the small good weight of a plate. It doesn't wobble. When the bank drafts my rent on the 1st, the notification pings and I smile. I write in the memo line I keep for myself, "For peace." I don't need the reminder. I like the ceremony. Sometimes walking home at dusk, I catch myself replaying a different scene. Not the video, not the auction, not even the tea. I see my hands holding a length of wood while a woman with silver hair says, "Press there." Not hard, steady. And I do. And the joint holds. And that's all it takes to make something last. Care at the pressure points, truth in the fit, boundaries that let weight rest without collapse. Revenge didn't fix me. It just stopped me from bleeding. The rest is work. Quiet, daily, unglamorous, the kind that accumulates into a life. I lock my door, turn off the lights, and leave the window open to whatever air wants to come in. It smells like dust and flowers and other people's dinners. It smells like a neighborhood where I live. And when the next payment comes due, it is mine. I pay it. I sleep soundly.